Welcome to everybody out there who's joined us. We're going to do some introductions and then kind of jump right in. So I'll go first. I'm Steve Karp. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer here at Unanet. I lead our product vision, our product strategy. I am up to my neck in all things AI, user experience, product management, et cetera. So really exciting time to be in a enterprise software business. And I think this topic in particular is super exciting. I'm going to throw it over to my partner in crime here, Alex Kohen, let him introduce himself, and then he's going to jump right in. And we'll say, please, as we go through our discussion, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. We'll do our best to address along the way.
Yeah, I would love for this to be collaborative. Look forward to hearing everyone's questions coming in from online and everything. But a little bit of my background is I joined Unanet recently, and I have worked in acquisition support for the federal government. So I learned about proposals from the government side. I was part of the office that issues RFPs and receives back proposals and made decisions for awards. So I learned initially from the inside how the government process works of spending money to achieve goals to better our nation. After that, when I was in business school, I started writing proposals to help GovCon firms win this type of work. And I'd been on the other side of the fence. I had been part of the meetings, how they grade proposals, how they score them, how contracting officers look at them, and how the programs evaluate them. And I think I had a leg up for that reason. And I thought, maybe I can write proposals to help do this. And later on in my career, I was working at Google and playing with AI models and trying to feed them complex documents and see what they could understand. And I started feeding them multi-100-page government proposals to see how do they parse out what are the requirements of this proposal? What are the solicitation instructions, submission, instructions? What are the evaluation criteria? And I saw that there's a big gap between what a standard off-the-shelf model can do, like ChatGPT, and something that's customized to look for that type of information, what that type of AI can do. And so that was the beginning of the idea for Unanet Proposal AI, that's a big gap. How do we help firms take advantage of these specialized tools that understand the context of government proposal writing? So my thinking, Steve, is that we could go today and talk a little bit about kind of the challenges that we're seeing that government contractors are having implementing AI in their business, the way that they're thinking about it, the questions that they have. And then I think the opportunity there is for firms that are doing this effectively, and how they're doing it, what are the indicators that someone is working on this, this type of cutting edge stuff correctly. And then finally, I'm hoping we have some time and we can talk about the synergy between Unanet Proposal AI and Unanet CRM, and why having these two connected and talking together makes a lot of sense and is an intuitive fit for these things. So
yeah, I think that'd be great. We, just for the benefit of the audience, many of you probably know this, some may not. I mean, we at Unanet have 30 plus years of experience in the government contracting space, providing ERP, CRM, and professional service automation software and solutions to our customers. And I would say the conversation has really been dominated with customers over the last 18 months about not just this particular application of AI, but just AI in general. So hopefully along the way, I'll sprinkle in the perspective that we hear what our customers are, more generally nervous about or anxious about or excited about, or usually ends up being some combination of all those things at once. So
yeah, what do you think that those top things are? The challenges, the questions, let's just throw some of them out there and we can start figuring out. And also, if you're streaming and you want to put your own 2 cents in, feel free to throw them up and we'll throw them on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, I think in my conversation with customers, there tend to be 3 traps that companies I think are trying to avoid, but sometimes beside their, even with their best of intent, they still fall into the trap. And right, the 3 traps are this. One is they're so overwhelmed by the range of application of AI or what they've heard or thought they've heard about AI, they just do nothing, and they don't support experimentation. And none of this is a values judgment as to what's right or wrong, but this is kind of what I've seen. So they tend to take a really conservative approach, and we're not going to do anything, no experimentation, no testing, no anything until we feel really comfortable about things. And I think the challenge there is how do you get comfortable without doing some of that sort of activity? So kind of the paralysis trap. I think the second trap is what I'll call the FOMO trap, which is, I better do something, because if I don't do something, somehow my business is going to suffer.
Yeah.
And so we see some of that. And then I think the third thing, which is really interesting from a more strategic and technical perspective, is the notion of, well, there's so many, like, the potential for how AI can transform a business is not literally endless, but the possibilities are almost endless. And so I'm going to try and do a bunch of different things. I'm going to test this and test that and play with that and push this button and pull that lever and turn this AI thing on. And I think that has, within some boundaries, can be a really interesting way to kind of test things out. But the trap is you kind of caught in this endless cycle of resources and money and some learning, but not enough learning to actually do anything, because you haven't really been prescriptive enough about what you're doing. And I think AI is like any other innovation. Really good innovation doesn't happen randomly. It doesn't happen by accident. It can be methodical. It should be somewhat methodical, and there should be process around it. So those are some of the things that I talk to customers about a lot.
I think all of those are definitely correct. I see the same things as well. I think that especially in the government contracting and the proposal space, there are so many different things and a lot of complex workflows, and it's easy to get distracted by all of the uses and applications. I think even bigger companies struggle with this too. If you look at Copilot, it's in Microsoft Word, and it's in Excel, and it's in PowerPoint, and it's trying to do a lot of different things. One of the things that I find is having a very narrow focus and trying to get the AI to do one or two tasks extraordinarily well. It takes a lot more effort and thought than to just kind of slap it into a bunch of different things.
Totally agree, right? The best AI is solving a specific problem. The problem could be a workflow. It could be data analysis. It could be lots of different things. But just look at what I think Apple recently rolled back, announced a rollback of some of the intelligence they were putting in their iPhones. And like, this stuff is hard, and to tackle the big, sexy use cases, like that's where a lot of the sizzle is. But to deliver the goods can be really, really hard. I mean, we've all, I've, not to pick on chatbots, like we've all used chatbots in lots of places in our day-to-day lives with companies or, services we're using. And man, I don't remember a lot of good ones. I remember a lot of mediocre ones, because they're hard. They're hard to do.
Yeah. I think the nice thing about government contracting is people don't usually describe it as sexy. The people that know it and care about it know a lot about it, but it definitely doesn't have that reputation. It is, though, full of a lot of processes and sub-processes that roll up to each other, and it's full of a lot of complex documentation. And so I think the opportunity, we've talked a bit about the challenge that GovCons have. It's hard to implement. It's hard to figure out. There's almost an endless number of things that you can figure out how to apply it to, and then how to apply it is the next question. I think the opportunity that there is in the government contracting space, especially, is that it is a specific workflow that runs in very similar stages every time. You are going to receive a long document from the government that may be multiple documents that have a bunch of requirements of what the government wants whoever's going to win this contract to do. They need to do some service, or they need to deliver some goods on place at a certain time. These are the specifications, and you need to kind of understand what those things are. And then the government wants their response back in a specific format, no more than 10 pages, yada, yada, yada. And lastly, they tell you how they're going to evaluate it. This is what we find important. This is what we find less important, et cetera. So you always have to pull that out of this set of documents. And then you always need to go back. Like every firm always also has it. They've written 100 versions of the same thing. It's like, and there's no harm in using ChatGPT to do it. You can always say, hey, I wrote this section. It's very similar. This is what the government's looking for this time. Can you morph it into what I want for this specific one? And then you're copy pasting all over the place. I think the challenge for a lot of firms is, you can get a lot of bang for your buck that way, but and the opportunity is there a way to do all of that stuff faster? And is there a way that we already have all this data about our firm that we've written? Can I organize that data faster? I hear this question a lot, like, how should I be organizing my library? How can I, take all of these things and that we've already written and leverage them so that we can use them more effectively?
A question, let me jump in with a question on that front. As you were building the product that is now Unanet Proposal AI, I'm sure you spent as much time as you could putting eyes on other people in the space that were already doing something, directly similar, somewhat similar, et cetera. We did the same. So, you've probably seen dozens of things. I personally know we've seen a dozen different solutions in this space over the last couple of years. And what's always been struck me is that while, as you said, the workflow or the problem to be solved is a pretty specific standard thing.
Sure.
I didn't see a single product out there that envisioned solving the problem the same way. So they looked different, they acted different. What was behind the curtain technology-wise may have been similar, may not have been similar, but as a user, I didn't see any two that were the same. I'm just curious as to how what was your guiding principles or your thinking around, like, this is the experience that really matters? Because like you said, the underlying workflow is the same for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, part of it is I think that there's a lot of experimentation that goes into it. You need to make sure that you're extracting the right pieces of the RFP itself. And then you need to look at your library and extract the right pieces of that. And then you need to have a prompt and you need to put it into an AI system and kind of run that and refine it a bunch. So, the way that you do that, I think you have to measure by the outputs. It's like you're mixing ingredients together to make cupcakes. And so if they come out and they don't taste good, then that something's wrong, even if you think your recipe, even if the recipe was perfect and you followed the instructions exactly. And so I think that that's why people get different results, is that they maybe focus on different parts of the recipe or different parts of the ingredients. We went with an approach where we were very focused on the outputs. So we did a lot of hands-on work with our customers to basically get responses out at the final end. And we made sure that the cupcakes tasted correct. And that way, we knew that what we were getting.
I mean, at the end of the day, everyone knows what a good cupcake tastes like, because they've probably eaten a lot of bad ones along the way. I'm jumping. I see our first question here, pretty timely, from Grant, asking about a tool called Cassidy AI. That is one I'm actually not familiar with. I don't know, Alex, if you're familiar with that at all.
I haven't seen them, actually. I think that what he's talking about is using a localized library. So I haven't seen that tool in specific. What I can talk about is kind of the way that customers use their library. I think it's really important, whether you're using ChatGPT or any other tool, that you want to make sure the thing for a lot of customers, for all customers, is the trade secrets that they have in their library that they've written that make their firm unique. Those are something that they don't want a larger AI system to be training on. They don't want it to go outside of the bounds of their system. So you definitely want someone that is not training on your data, and preferably keeps it in a completely containerized environment where there's no way that anyone else would even have access to it. One of the ways to do that is a localized library. There are some issues with this. There's a reason that we have the cloud and that it works for a lot of things. And so you can use like the Gov Cloud and clouds that are authorized for this type of work, that are highly effective and trusted by a lot of firms. But we also do have a way to run it completely localized for our customers. For example, if they want it to run in their own FedRAMP environment, or they want it to run it on a desktop computer, or if they have, the problem is getting GPUs. So you have to have access to that. But yeah, you should have a library that's trained on your proposal data. I mean, the thing is, you getting something to sound like ChatGPT wrote it is pretty easy. You can just feed it into ChatGPT. Most firms don't want that. They want their proposals to sound like they wrote it. They don't want it to sound like it was written by an AI. And so you have to use a library, and you have to train the AI to write in the same style that your firm writes in order to get those responses that sound authentic.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for the question, Grant. Do you think we get to a day, maybe this is 5 years, maybe this is 20 years, maybe it never comes, where everyone is using maybe not the same tool to help support their proposal writing activity, but they're all of equal quality, and you have this arms race effect where everyone is really good at cranking out really good proposals, and therefore nobody's gaining any advantage in the ultimate outcome they want, which is winning more business with better proposals.
I do think that there's an arms race. I think it's probably already happening and already begun. But to say that it's, as with many things, the technology is just an amplifier. So there was already an arms race for the best proposal writers. If you had a team of really good proposal writers that had a lot of capabilities and knew how they have the right SMEs, and so that arms race is already happening. AI kind of just amplifies it. And it's a very garbage in, garbage out system. If you don't spend a lot of time, if you don't have the right examples, if you don't have the past performance, if you haven't written this kind of stuff before, this AI isn't going to magically make your firm into something that it's not.
Yep.
By the same token, I think that the government is on the receiving end of this, and the government is going to need help, and they might do some structural or strategic things to kind of counteract this arms race where AI is helping you increase your volume game. And there are many firms that think, well, if I increase my volume, I'll naturally win some more. That might be true to some effect, or to some extent, but it's not really enough. The proposals are very, very important. Getting them done quickly is important so that you can do more of them and do more other important work for your firm. But I think that things the government could do is make orals more important, have an oral presentation component of it where you're like an in-person interview, you're being asked questions and you're giving a live presentation. That's one way they could kind of counteract this arms race, and we might see some of those things type of things happen.
For sure. Very, very interesting. I know I sidetracked the freight train you were on there, so happy to get back to wherever you were going, or we can
I had a question for you, which is, I know a lot about proposals, and I know that I think one of the great harmonies that we're looking for here is synchronization between someone's proposal shop and their CRM platform. And people use their CRM to track opportunities, to respond to opportunities. When they get G2, they should put that into their CRM. There's a lot of stuff that's there. I'm curious, if you can help paint the vision for what the synergy looks like between these two things. That would be helpful for me.
Yeah, no, happy to. I mean, my view, our view of what CRM is and needs to be, it's not your grandfather's CRM. Maybe somebody on our marketing team we can keep that as a tagline somewhere. I don't know where we'd use it, but all right. You kind of mentioned it, like CRMs for decades have been really good at kind of the I don't want to call it mundane because it's not, but the managing the activities that sales teams or anybody facing, a customer facing or somebody facing a potential customer, like just helping you track interaction, right? So, and then moving those interactions along whatever sales process. So it's just really good at I think when most people think CRM, frankly, they think pipeline management. They think of either I'm inputting information and someone else is inspecting what I'm doing. And in theory, the tool is helping me be a better account executive, customer success person, whatever. Or I'm a people leader, sales leader, and it's just helping me understand what my team is doing and what the pipeline looks like. So it's historically just been really, and still don't get me wrong, that is still a critical function of the CRM. But I think if you think more fulsomely of the end-to-end process, that you don't just magically, for the most part, generally, you're not just magically popping in an opportunity into Salesforce or into Unanet or whatever based on, I was walking on the street and I thought of this thing I should go pursue. That's not, that may happen from time to time, but generally the opportunity that is going into the CRM, the opportunity is coming from a whole series of activities. And like my view is that, especially in the government contracting space, or particularly in the government contracting space, that first seed that has to get planted is, what are the opportunities even available to me in the first place, right? So there are millions and millions of things I could pursue, at various levels of federal, state, local government. This is kind of for the sake of it. Let's just focus on that piece of it, right? So, and it's all out there. The information is all out there in very structured formats, and it's no secret. Anybody can go find it. But effectively parsing terabytes and terabytes of information in a way that you're feeding your CRM with the early view of opportunities that feel like, not just feel, but based on both, some technology driven view, qualitatively and quantitatively. These are the things that you probably are most likely to effectively go after.
I think
and I just, the CRM's like, that's been, that's where in the government contract, that's where it all starts in my view.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think that the synergy that I see between proposals and CRM and the, opportunity searching is that a lot of, one of the things that AI opens up for us is its ability to ingest these large amounts of data, for example, an entire multi-100-page proposal or RFP or something like that. And traditionally, a lot of CRMs have had, a lot of different fields tagged for different things. What we have the opportunity to do by combining forces is take a company's proposals and use those as the basis for searching what opportunities will match with them. And I think that that's something where a lot of firms haven't necessarily always put their past proposals into the CRM platform, because they're tracking the opportunity, but the proposal process is like a parallel process running underneath. Oh, like, we've reached this stage, we're ready to write the proposal. Awesome. The proposal team, puts their hats on and, goes and does all this stuff.
And I mean, and AI allows for an intimacy and a relevancy of search that you cannot get through traditional search technologies, just flat out. So it is a fundamentally better way to take what you've done or what you want to do and match it up against what's available to be done.
Exactly. And it can also help find things that have also been a little bit more difficult to understand too. Who else might be bidding on this because they've bid on similar things at a different agency? Who might be a good partner? Because this is a land of frenemies. Like, my partner on this opportunity could be the incumbent on that opportunity, could be,
or who always wins a deal with this agency. So it doesn't matter how good I am. It's clear there's a relationship there. That
are there trends that it can see in the data that it would take a human 1,300 tabs? That's how my browser always looks. It's like,
same. I have about 40 open right now.
Well, we have 5 more minutes. I think we've covered some awesome topics. I'm curious if there's anyone watching that have questions, that are burning questions. I want to make sure we take time for at least 2 or 3 questions. So please put your questions in the chat, take a minute, type it out. If there's anything you're curious about, we've talked about the challenge of implementing AI for GovCons, some of the ways that you can leverage having a CRM and a proposal tool that work together, what the big O opportunity looks like here. We've talked about some of the other platforms and how to orient your library. If you have questions about any of those things, anything else, so please feel free, jump in, type your question up. We're going to try and get to all of them, but I want to make sure that we leave at least 5 minutes for folks before the end to make sure that we answer questions live. That's the whole point of doing a LinkedIn Live. So.
And for those of you that may be a little bit like me in the sense that you don't think of the great question until 2 minutes too late, please just reach out to either one of us on LinkedIn, and we will happily engage and tackle it offline. I tend to be the master of not thinking of the great question until it appears to be too late.
Yep.
But and maybe one closing thought. I mean, some of the things we've talked about, it's not to say that the technology is perfect, but I think it is to say that maybe plant the seed for folks out there that it is ready. This is a ready for prime time sort of use case, that this isn't wishful thinking on Alex's part or my part or other people's part in this space. This, real live results with customers that have been using, dozens of customers using our tool and many customers using other tools, getting, real results every day.
We have a question from Valerie. Any advice on materials and sources about the challenges of AI governance? So I think that I can reach out to you, Valerie, with a bunch of the websites and tools that we have in terms of AI governance that we use internally. I think that it's very important to know a lot about the models that you're using. Almost every AI tool uses multiple models for different parts of it. And so you want to make sure that your governance structure for doing that. Oh, there's another question. Yeah, put up another question from Valerie on the screen. We can kind of answer them both in tandem. So you want to make sure that, you understand what data your AIs have access to, how they're processing that data, and look at the data processing agreements that they have. Those things are really important, and I can point you to some guides about that.
Yeah, and Valerie, I'd say, it's going to be different. Every company, it may not be the uniform answer, but we actually have an AI governance board, which is made up of cross-functional leaders around the business. To me, that's a good example of doing things smartly, and it is an element of the process that it doesn't have to stifle innovation. It actually helps drive it, because you're getting the right people in a room together to regularly talk about what you want to go do and to go do it more. It's one of those examples of sometimes you have to slow down to go fast. And I'd argue AI governance is a good example of that. The questions are rolling in here. Allison, a PhD and an MBA. Well, let's see if we can, if I can tackle this one. At what point do you think the government will be using AI to evaluate all proposals? How close are we to that? Alex, you probably have a better answer to that than I do. I have a sense, but you probably have more facts.
Yeah, I think the government is currently evaluating tools for doing that. I know, I've seen a bunch of RFPs come out for that exact thing. I know there's a bunch of things on Tradewinds that, are focused on that. Tradewinds is a government website for emerging technology run by, I think, the DoD. So at a high level, I think that there's a couple of challenges to this. So the first one is, there's very basic level evaluation of how compliant is this proposal? Did they miss any key compliance issues? That's probably a little bit easier. Our tool, we spend a lot of time on the compliance to help people find compliance issues and move their proposals from pink team to red team to gold team, et cetera. And, this completeness of your proposal is very important. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices. You only have 5 or 10 pages and you have a million things you need to fit in there, and you just need to focus on what's important. But I think that that's a bit of an easier piece of it. I think harder is the adjectival descriptions. Different AIs have different quality, both in terms of their accuracy and in terms of their preciseness, precision. So accuracy is, do they hit the bullseye? Are they correct? And precision is, if you ask it 4 or 5 times, are the answers clustered all in the same? So if you give it a B response, is it always going to give B or good as opposed to excellent? So AI isn't really there yet in its current format on the latter. It's not as precise and accurate as it would need to be to do adjectival ratings by most metrics. The models are getting better and better, but the consistency is really key. And back to the AI governance question, you want to have the traceability of why, and especially with these types of adjectival or interpretive ratings of, to what extent did they have a response that was, poor, middling, good, excellent, et cetera. Those are still difficult. So I think we're probably, in terms of the practicality of it, the government buying cycle is a long one. I'd say the government is probably going to be looking at solutions and maybe trying some pilot implementations this fiscal year, and probably rolling things out at a broader agency level probably next fiscal year. So
cool. I know we're up against time. If this was an award ceremony, this is where the music would start to play. So I know we have some other questions we haven't gotten to. We will absolutely reach out offline to follow up on those. Really want to thank everybody for for joining us for this, our first time. Fun to do. I'm sure we'll do more of them. And we're going to close with a little bit of a plug for the Unanet Champions Conference. This is our annual customer event that is held this year. It's held in Atlanta for 4 days, end of April, early May. If you're a Unanet customer and you're on the line, hope to see you. If you're not a Unanet customer, you still have plenty of time to become one, and then you can come to the event. So Alex and I will be at the event speaking in much more detail about this AI topic and some other related AI initiatives we have going on. So we're going to close it on that. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Cheers. Take care.